50メートルだぞ。
やつだ。
巨人だ。
Well met.
This is the Heroes of the Storm Heroic Spotlight, and today we're looking at Uther, the Lightbringer.
Let the righteous know peace, and the unjust know the back of my hand.
With the release of Heroes 2.0, Blizzard's take on the Season of Giving, in April of all things, patrons of the Nexus were blessed with tidings from every conceivable angle, from loot boxes to a new map, to new heroes and reveals, and of course, some love was finally given to everyone's favorite paladin, Uther. This was long overdue. The guy was basically a Walmart greeter for the Nexus, for crying out loud. Everyone made fun of him.
You lack honor.
Thank you.
But now, he's not just Uther anymore, he's Nuther. I literally made this spotlight just to make that joke. They've retooled a ton of stuff on this guy, and not only made him viable, but also pretty damn fun to play. They've really pushed ahead on the concept of a tanky healer hybrid kind of guy, and it shows with the changes they've made to him. He can actually fight frontline now. His heals are better, he has some tailor-made talents just for him, and best of all, they've redefined his core trait.
I'm too old for this nonsense.
Uther's passive is... well, he has two now, actually. The first is Devotion. Whenever Uther heals an allied hero, including himself, he grants them 25 armor for 2 seconds, reducing their damage taken by 25%. This makes him a great pick against a lot of auto-attack heavy heroes, as it not only gives them healing, but also much needed damage reduction. And even though it doesn't stack, this is still a fantastic addition to this guy's kit. The second part of his passive is Eternal Vanguard. When Uther dies in battle, he roams the field as a ghost similar to Tyrael, and his kit is replaced by a sole ability, Flash of Light, which he can cast for free with an insanely fast cooldown. Now this essentially makes Uther the most dedicated healer in the game. Even dying doesn't stop this guy. Well, until you die as a ghost, that is. Now before this, the ghostly form was Uther's only passive, so the ability was subpar at best. But since Blizzard has gone and added Devotion to the mix, his trait has exploded with utility and new purpose. The long cooldowns on his healing abilities don't feel nearly as long thanks to the armor he grants, which makes even the messiest of teamfights much more manageable. Okay, so sidebar with me here. For the longest time, I kept thinking Uther looked really short. Like Muradin short. I actually had to go and look up to see if he was a dwarf or a human or just what was going on there, just to be sure, because he felt that off to me. That is until I saw the size chart on a Reddit post somewhere. Clearly I was thinking too much into the issue, but holy fuck is Tychus' Odin ever a monster. Uther's Q is Holy Light. He heals a targeted ally for a moderate amount of health. Pretty simple, right? But now, if you heal someone other than yourself with it, this ability also heals Uther for half the total healing as well. And if you'll recall, his passive will proc with any healing done to any ally, so both you and your target will get the armor bonus. Now this ability's pretty awesome. It's a high burst heal that actually does more for you if you're doing your job right, namely keeping your team alive and not just yourself. It does come with a drawback though, and that's its high cooldown. 12 seconds is simply too long for such a necessary ability. In fact, the only reason Uther can really keep up with other, faster supports is the armor that he grants. Well, and I guess the fact that this isn't his only healing ability. Holy Radiance is your W, and as I said, this is your secondary heal. It doesn't heal nearly as much as your Q, less than half actually, but it comes with the benefit of healing all allies in a line and dealing the same amount of damage to enemies struck. Now this one too has a high cooldown, but one that can be adjusted with certain talents. The main use of this ability, however, besides being your backup heal, is its utility. This is Uther's only way of hitting multiple targets outside of one of his heroics, and the fact that he heals and does damage at the same time makes it a great tool for almost every situation. Paired with the fact that it also procs your passive, and you really start to see why Uther is suddenly viable again. Which is good, because otherwise this guy would probably only see play in the damn tutorial levels. Finally, we come to his E, Hammer of Justice. Again with the hammers. Seriously, we're not going there. This ability deals minor damage, while also stunning the target for 0.75 seconds. Now while it doesn't sound like that much, its short cooldown actually makes this incredibly useful. Having access to a solid stun makes people wary about diving you, and since Uther is already kinda tanky thanks to his armor and high health, you'll usually be able to survive where other supports would be mincemeat. Now keep in mind, there's never really a bad time to use this, but if I had to pick an optimal one, it would be when an enemy overextends just a bit too far, like when a tank gets too near your turrets to attack you, or when a fast assassin dives one of your squishier allies. The damage you can dish out in the meantime with auto attacks is surprisingly decent for support, and in a pinch, the stun can also be used to secure your escape. Now, because of his ability to fight frontline with the tanks and the melee assassins, Uther works great alongside anyone who can drag enemies into the fray, like Stitches or Johanna, or ones that can really capitalize on his stuns like a good Greymane or Butcher. Since he can take a lot of punishment before dropping, be sure to prioritize your allies for heals, especially since you benefit from them as well. And if the worst should happen, a dead Uther can still help his team win the day, which is much more than any other support can do. However, since he only grants armor, Uther can't really do much against ability-heavy heroes and mages. They'll burst him down just the same as anyone else. He can pick up Spell Shield at level 13, but that's not the end-all be-all answer you might be hoping for. Gul'dans and Nazebos just eat right through that. No, if you're going up against a mage-heavy team, you're going to need something with a little bit more kick. Uther's first heroic is Divine Shield. Makes an allied hero invulnerable for 3 seconds, as well as increases their movement speed by 20% throughout the duration. Now, I really like this heroic, but I kinda have a problem with it, at least now I do, and that's Medivh. Ever since the Guardian was introduced into the Nexus, this heroic feels laughable, since Medivh basically has the same thing as part of his regular kit. How fair is that? Uther has to waste a heroic slot to get what someone else just gets for nothing. Now, I know someone will say that Medivh's version only lasts half as long as this, and that's true, but it doesn't have a 90-second freaking cooldown, does it? I'm actually kinda surprised they left this ability so unchanged despite Uther's rework, but even though I have an issue with it, it's still very good. Making yourself or another ally immune to all damage isn't something to take lightly, and used properly, it can absolutely help turn the tide of a losing battle. Sure, it requires timing and practice, but what doesn't these days? His second heroic is Divine Storm. It deals a small amount of damage to all nearby enemies around Uther, and stuns them for 1.75 seconds each. Now, as far as damage goes, this is barely better than Holy Radiance, but as a support, that should be the least of your concerns. What matters here is that sweet stun. The fact that this stuns multiple enemies at once is amazing, but it comes with a drawback. The range on this is tiny. Like, you need to be in the very middle of a team fight to get any real use out of it. Otherwise, it misses and you're stuck with an 80-second cooldown for your troubles. Now, out of the two, it's actually hard to make a choice of which is the better heroic. They both have their uses, and both require some practice to really get right. In the end, this choice comes down to the situation more than any level of personal preference. The range on Divine Shield gives you more of a margin for error, but the Storm can really help to put faster heroes like Genji or Illidan in their place. No matter what you pick though, I think we can all agree that taking Redemption at 20 is the right way to go. Seriously, this thing is awesome. It makes his passive even better, and catches opponents off guard just when they think they've won. So that's Uther. He's been around the Nexus since its creation, but after such a long time of warming the bench, Blizzard has finally done enough with him to put him back in the game. Maybe for keeps this time. He can't heal as quickly as other supports can, but his combination of armor granting and stuns makes him a pretty sturdy pick for most team comps. And honestly, I'm just glad to see Blizzard giving such a classic hero a good upgrade. Now, if they could just fix Hero's passive to match it, that'd be great. Hey guys, Sigil here. Thanks for watching. We finally hit 100 subscribers. Woo! I'm so stoked for that. Hell, we've even surpassed it in the time it took me to make this video. I want to extend a big shout out to Carbot Animations for letting me use that clip of his. He's awesome and hilarious, and you really should check out his stuff if you haven't yet. If you have an idea for the next spotlight, be sure to leave me a comment below or on Twitter, or even on Facebook. People still use that, right? And as usual, I can be found on my Discord channel, so hit me up if you're wanting a game, and as always, I'll see you in the Nexus.